Thank you, Delano. Now on Bounce, you remember the story of that Concord woman who lost her arm in that shark attack. Tiffany Johnson credited God with saving her life in those scary moments earlier this month in the Bahamas. She had to be rushed into surgery and had to endure more operations at CMC when she arrived back home in Charlotte. We have the surgeons here who performed the operations on her in Charlotte. They are talking about the whole ordeal. I want to welcome Dr. Glenn Gaston, the chief hand surgeon from Ortho Carolina, as well as Dr. Brian Loeffler, a hand surgeon. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Let's dive right in, because I know that you guys used a new type of surgery on Tiffany's arm. Let's talk about that first.
Sure. Well, Tiffany had a amputation just below her elbow, and so we have been working on a new type of surgery we call targeted muscle reinnervation, where what we did is we took the nerves that had been cut from her amputation and we moved them into muscles that were still remaining in her arm, which really does two neat things for Tiffany. Number one, it prevents the pain that a lot of amputees have from nerves, phantom pain or nerve pain that they experience. And number two, it'll let her arm function at a much higher level, so she'll be able to get a prosthetic that can do a lot more than the average amputee this day and age.
And you guys say this TMR surgery is brand new. How many surgeries have you done using this technique?
Well, the surgical technique was devised about a decade or so ago at the level above the elbow and at the shoulder level. But it's really been in the last year or so that we've adapted the same concepts to surgery for surgery below the elbow. And so we have done about a dozen of those surgeries above the elbow, and we've now done, in the last year or so, we've done about a dozen below the elbow as well. So it's really a new technique, but it's an application of pre-existing principles.
I see. How will her nerve signals be able to control her prosthetic once she gets to that point?
Yeah, the prosthetic goes on almost like a sleeve and has little sensors on the skin. And so basically the nerve that used to make her thumb move will now make a new muscle up in her forearm move, so that the prosthesis can detect that and can move accordingly. So the sensors are over the skin and inside the prosthesis, and this is an example of one of our patients right here.
Wow. Just incredible to see this kind of advancement. Before this innovation, what would have been Tiffany's options?
Well, her options would have been fairly limited. You know, one of the complications that you can run into with fitting a prosthetic over an arm like that is that it can be so painful and sensitive that it's difficult to get a prosthetic on there. And so one of the advantages of the surgery is that it makes it much more tolerable to wear a prosthetic. And then the innovations on the technological side have been incredible in the last several years. So now, instead of just doing rudimentary things like open close only, we can now, as you can see, rotate the forearm, have thumb control, and dexterity that really wasn't possible at all before. So the surgery enables a patient more control of that new technology.
That is just incredible. And you're saying that so much of this is possible because you move those nerves, so they're not there where the prosthetic will go.
Correct. We spent a lot of time in the lab doing research looking at which are the best nerves to use, and during the surgery we work together and we test each nerve and we test each muscle to figure out for each patient what's the best place to move that nerve to optimize their function.
That sounds incredibly detailed. How long were you guys in surgery performing for Tiffany?
The first time we did the surgery below the elbow level, it took us 4 or 5 hours, even though we'd kind of practiced it and rehearsed it in the lab. But we've got it down to about 3 hours now, I would say. But each surgery is unique based on the patient's specific variables.
When will Tiffany be ready for her prosthetic?
So first you'll have to heal her soft tissues, and that generally takes around a month to a month and a half, and then she'll go into something that begins to sort of shrink the remaining arm down to its normal size. You don't want to fit a prosthesis and then have it shrink further because there's a lot of swelling initially. So she'll start her first prosthesis around 3 months out from injury, typically, sometimes 4 months. 3 to 4 months is about the average.
And that fitting of the prosthesis takes time as well.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Have you guys used the same principle on other parts of the body, like the forearm, legs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of pioneering into doing it for a forearm level, and we've actually done it on legs as well. So some of the major issues with, for someone who's got an amputation at the leg level, again, is just with fitting the prosthesis and not having issues with nerve pain or phantom pains. And so by doing the nerve transfers that we do, we can eliminate those problems. And so again, it's just using the same techniques, but it's now applying it to a different situation.
So how is Tiffany doing, and does she still kind of have some tough days ahead?
She's doing really well, although she does have tough days ahead. She is one of the most amazing people and patients you could ever ask to have. She has an amazing outlook. She's got a deep-rooted faith, great family support, and so I think she as a patient has a lot of the characteristics that we see in patients who really excel. But it's tough. The loss of a limb is a huge loss, and she's really coming through it great.
I mean, she's a busy part. She's got mom of 3,
Yeah.
so it will take some time for her to sort of, I imagine, get used to this new normal.
Very much
That's
so.
right. That's right.
Very much so.
Anything else that you guys wanted to add about this technology, this innovative technique that you guys are pioneering, to use your word?
Well, we just feel very fortunate to be part of it, and it's something that we're really dedicated to, and we take great pride in the care that we are providing for these patients. We established an upper extremity amputee clinic to be a center for patients who've gone through this to come together, and that we can really focus on. It's multidisciplinary, which is really fun because we have the surgeons and the prosthetists and the therapists and the patients all together, and it can be a forum for improving communication, and it also allows the network between the patients as well. So it's been really exciting to be part of it.
And how long have you guys been in the game? Because I imagine you have to have a wealth of experience to do what you're doing.
We've worked together about 5 years, and one of the fun things about the amputee surgeries is Tiffany's case was an acute injury. She had just had her arm amputated, but I think another thing worth mentioning is just for the amputees to know, this can be done years later. For amputees that had an injury years ago and are having pain or don't function as well as they want, and you can still do these same principles now and change their lives as well.
That's got to be huge, though, for folks to know that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best
Yeah,
messages.
there's been huge advancements in the last few years, and so, it used to be you had the amputation, that was kind of it. You had a rudimentary prosthesis or simple prosthesis that didn't have a lot of function. Well, now it's a whole different game. So we really want to get the word out there to people to give them hope, that there's a lot more that can be done these days.
Are you guys excited about what's next, like what you will continue to see and be able to do for folks?
It's changed, I think, both of our practices. It's changed our areas of research. It's changed our focus. We've dedicated a lot more time to this and couldn't be any more excited about the future of it.
We want to put up more information, for more information on Ortho Carolina. If you are sitting at home saying, gosh, this is for me, go to WBTV.com right now. Look in the Web Extras section, which is right on the homepage. You can also read more on Tiffany's story on our website as well. We appreciate you guys so much. Dr. Gaston, Dr. Loeffler. Thank you. I got it right?
You did.
There we go.
2 times.
Thank you to both of you for taking the time. I know you're very busy, for explaining this to us and for helping to get the word out.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Delana?